Really doing this?
We're really doing this. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to College Talk Tuesday. Pearl and Andy Lockwood from Lockwood College Prep. This show is all about helping our kids get in and afford, or helping us afford, paying for college, I guess, without sacrificing retirement.
Your current daily life.
Scrimping on your lifestyle.
Yep.
Yes. Mortgaging
We
your...
want you to keep eating your 3 meals a day. And
Right. That aren't brown bagged or mac and cheese, and without mortgaging your home or your eyeballs or your retirement, or for selling kidney.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah.
If you're having
Fair.
a cup of coffee, please join me in a simultaneous sip on 3, 1, 3.
Virtual sip.
Again, you have doing a shot motion.
Virtual shot.
Very aggressive. That's Pearl. All right. So today we're going to talk about some recent financial aid developments and the general timeline. We're also going to talk about college budget slashing and what that could mean for our seniors, 2021 as well as beyond, and take your questions. So come on by and say hi in the comments section. Let us know that we're coming in loud and clear here. And hello to Chuck.
Good morning.
It's nice to see Chuck. Tunes in most weeks. Any questions you have about, let's say you have a junior and what you should be doing in the upcoming balance of the year, spring semester. A lot of stuff's up in the air right now. We may not have the answers to your questions, but we can certainly discuss them with you. So who else is here? Hello to Travis. I just talked to him yesterday. And good morning, Lori. And Marissa.
Cool.
Okay, good. So talk about a little bit about what's going on with
financial aid, I
and,
presume.
Yeah, when should people be hearing whether they are early decision or a regular decision or early action, you name it?
Well, it depends. I know. I feel like I'm always saying it depends, but it really does. It depends how you apply to the school. That is going to dictate, of course, not only your deadline for these financial aid forms, but it also will dictate when you will hear. So if you've applied early action or early decision, a few days more along the lines to a few weeks past the time you hear from admission, you'll successfully hear from admission. You'll receive a financial aid award letter. If you've applied regular decision, you better learn some patience because, and this is, you're not going to hear until closer to March, April. Okay. And a lot of what happens in this year, there's like a flurry of activity, or maybe you'll hear from a school and that will give you the sense that, oh, it's all going to happen now. And then it doesn't. And then there's like this waiting period that feels long, but eventually comes to a close.
It
is a long time. It is, and your emotions are tied up in the balance for this long time, and then that's a little distressing and uncomfortable. But it does come to an end every single year. It comes to an end, and whatever forms they needed and documentation they've needed to finalize your award and whatever all comes to an end, and things typically, get righted the way they should be. And all I can tell you is, as between the schools, because sometimes I'll get questions, well, they admitted me and there's a mention of a merit award in the letter. Is this my whole financial package? Is there more to it? Okay. So some schools will indicate in their admissions letter that they are offering a merit award, and there will be like a sentence of a dollar amount. Sometimes it'll say, okay, this is $10,000 for the next 4 years, or some mentioning. That in and of itself is simply a mentioning of an intended merit award. It is not to be confused with your entire financial aid package or what you're getting. And some schools may have an intention of giving you a merit award and may not make any mention of such award in the admissions letter. They will just say, congratulations, you've been accepted for admission. Okay. And that you will, in that case, if it is a school that offers merit, has merit to give, you're likely to get merit from that school. You would hear it a few weeks down the road in the financial aid package in its entirety.
So there's two types of money being awarded. I think most of you know this, but just in case you don't, there's need-based aid, which you may be qualified for, you may not be qualified for. That was what Pearl was talking about initially, meaning that if you apply early decision to a school and you hear back December 15th, you should get a need-based award within a couple of days, assuming you applied for financial aid. If you applied early action and got all your applications in by November 1st or November 15th, you may not hear by the end of the year for your need-based award. You probably won't hear until March or April.
Right.
Now, contrast that with merit aid. Not every school offers merit, but most schools do, other than the super elite ones. If you are eligible for merit aid, you'll either learn about that simultaneously or on the heels of getting admitted to a school. And if you don't, then my advice would be, if 3 or 4 days goes by and you haven't seen any communications about it, it probably means you're not going to qualify for it, but it still wouldn't be a bad idea to call up the school or email them and just say, hey, I'm curious about my eligibility for merit aid. You meaning your child, not you. Mm-hmm. That's the royal you. So that may or may not happen within days or weeks of getting admitted. In terms of negotiating these offers, most of them are negotiable. Not all, but most of them are. And it's always worth trying. You don't have any leverage really when you're applying early decision, so I would attack that negotiation right away. However, if you're applying regular decision or you're getting merit aid and you have other offers, we always recommend waiting till all offers come in and then starting to negotiate. There's no rush. There's no running out of money. I believe that's going to be the case this year too, mm-hmm. which is a segue into the next part of the show here. But it's always good to have the most leverage possible and to demonstrate that you're considering other schools and you're willing to walk away. I mean, that's the best position of strength that you can be in, not only with negotiating with colleges, but in any situation in your life. Okay, little life tip there. Yeah. So any other thoughts on financial aid before we segue?
Well, and then you were in a roundabout way pointing out that within this year, there is the optimal time and the less than optimal time to approach an appeal, to begin a negotiation. And right now, where we are in the calendar year, no one is in a position yet to negotiate an award. Why? Because the schools have something that you all want. That's their yes ticket. Okay. Once they've parted with the yes ticket and given it to you, then you, as the students, have something that the school wants. What's that? They want to hear yes back from you. Only until you are in that phase, the time where you are holding the chips, literally, figuratively, are you in the most optimal position and time to negotiate the award of the school you're trying to go to.
Good. All right, a couple questions coming in here first before we switch to the next topic. Sarah, you'll want to know, how can I get the scholarship? You have to apply for scholarships.
Yes.
If you are looking for scholarships, I recommend my colleague, Jean O'Toole, connections101.com. Can you post that on your phone?
Sure.
Yeah, connections101.com. She helps people search for scholarships because there's a lot of information out there, many of it conflicting and rabbit hole-y, where you can just lose a lot of money and time and get frustrated. Jean O'Toole, connections101.com. Thank you. Lori has a question. This is a great question. We overlook this a lot. Do schools let you know if you do not qualify for need-based or merit aid? So if you complete financial aid applications, you will get an award no matter what, whether you qualify or not, from your college. If you don't qualify, your award is going to consist entirely of loans. If you do qualify, it'll be loans plus hopefully a lot of free money. So they won't say you don't qualify. They will say, here's what you get, an unsubsidized student loan. And you might also want to take out the parent loan or something.
And then not taking anyone's knowledge for granted, how do you know loosely if you are need-based eligible or not at a particular institution? We go back to the formula, which is the cost of attendance at a particular institution, which varies, as we know, between schools, minus your expected family contribution, which is the number that is calculated upon filing the FAFSA based on your income and your assets and your students' income and assets, number of kids in school, et cetera, a couple other metrics. And the result of the cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution equals your need. So if a number is produced by that mathematical equation, a positive number, then you're demonstrating need at that institution. If you are not showing a need, then
because your EFC is too high.
Because your EFC is too high, or you're getting an upside down number, a negative number, then you're not demonstrating need.
Yeah, we'll do a whole class on that at some point, but that's the short answer. So they won't tell you, and if you don't qualify for merit aid, they're not going to tell you don't qualify. They're just going to not offer you something. That's generally what we see, right?
Yes.
Okay. So there, go to connections101.com for scholarship information. And Deborah, The Voice, voiceover artist and professional sneezer, Deborah Sperling. It's an honor to have you on, young lady.
Yes.
An honor. It's a privilege.
Too bad we can't hear a sneeze.
Yeah, someday we'll have her on for a guest sneeze when we do our disclaimers webinar. All right, so let's switch a little bit to what's happening with college budgets and cuts and all that. So there's been a bunch of stories that are coming out that are going to continue to come out about colleges that are under severe financial pressure because of a loss in revenue from all the pandemic-related drop in tuition. So they initially started cutting a lot of the admin, not necessarily the professors, but the marketing people and so forth. What I always find interesting, because I've seen this in these articles, but it also comes up every time there are articles about the government shutting down. They both talk about cutting non-essential employees. And that makes me wonder, well, why would you ever have non-essential employees? By definition,
trim the fat, folks.
Well, by definition, I mean, would you employ someone who's not essential?
Nope.
Why would any business do that?
Nope.
So either it's just
unless you become a charity.
Yeah, right. So I think it's just a sloppy usage of the phrase, but there may be more to it.
Or
than that.
Sloppy use of taxpayer money.
Or business. Anyway,
perhaps.
so I digress, but. That's how colleges were starting off, and then they started cutting athletic programs. And what I've seen recently is some colleges have invoked these act of God clauses in the to cut tenured professors, which is interesting. I also found this. Well, look, if there ever were an act of God to get you out of a contract, it would be a pandemic. Not the professors are taking this lying down. I saw a handful of stories about how colleges administration tried to bring in the professors to be part of the budget, the cost cutting exercise, and almost across the board, the professor's response was, "We don't want you to cut anything," right? Which shows you what kind of world they live in. Yeah, right. So, but at least the administrations reached out to them. So now there's been a beginning of a decrease of tenured professors out there, which I think is a good thing overall. I mean, I know there's exceptions, but I think job security for life is probably not great when you're a professor and you're kind of burnt out and you don't like teaching. So in those instances, I think that's a good thing. Something else which I'm going to tackle, which is definitely not politically correct. So I'm sure I'll be offending somebody here.
We will excuse those now who are looking for the PC discussion. Yeah. Bye.
Okay. Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
No,
we didn't talk. Okay.
I have no idea.
Well, it's so up your alley, though. I thought you looked at my notes.
No.
So now some schools are consolidating majors, such as so there's been some decrease in majors and programs in the liberal arts, which I think is unfortunate. But that doesn't mean the courses are being cut. It means that some schools are cutting comparative religion or philosophy majors. It's slowly starting. But other schools have come into fire for consolidating majors such as gender equality, women's studies,
What are we going to do without them?
Well, so on one hand, right, when I can't believe you can go to college and major in women's studies. I'm sorry. And I don't have anything against studying that. I just don't know if that should be a major. I think that should be something that you study kind of on your own time. You take some courses in, but I honestly can't remember ever hearing about an employer saying, "Get me the women's studies major," to hire them. Yeah, we need someone now who understands women. As a husband, I understand that, but as an employer, I'm not positive about that. So it seems like the diversity, inclusion, and women's studies, and I see some schools that are starting to either eliminate or get rid of those, or consolidate them. Dartmouth even did that a couple years ago. In 2017, they got rid of. I can't remember the name of the program, but it shows how insensitive I am. Something along those lines. But I think what all these questions are really about, or all these things are really about, is what's the value of a college education. And there seems to be and I'm not alarmed about it, because as a liberal arts guy, I am a big believer in the liberal arts. But there seems to be hopefully the beginning of a trend to get away from some of the majors that really don't help kids succeed after college, in favor of some of the majors that do help kids succeed after college. And again, not to say that doesn't mean that the courses are going to be eliminated. It just means the programs or majors of study where you're concentrating on these types of politically correct or relatively new types of concentrations. I think it's okay if they get pared back a little bit.
Agreed. Especially, let's not overlook the obvious. A college education is a fortune. It's, by and large, on average, $250,000. So it's not a casual proposition or a casual investment for most families. It should be taken with serious consideration and thought and due diligence, as one would employ in any investment they were making, to make sure they would get some kind of return on that investment. So if you are going to be just caught up in the intellectual curiosity part of college without connection to the investment that's been made and getting a return on that investment, those are dangerous waters to embark on after college without other resources. And
because we do have a professional performer in our audience today. Deborah is the exception.
Which is exceptional,
right.
Exactly.
But it's very easy to go to school and be extremely mediocre by any objective standard performer.
Would be entertained for the few years you're there.
But go and major in music, or even attend one of these conservatories or semi-conservatories, and spend 4 years majoring in performing arts. And again, the pandemic is here now, but of course it's going to go away at some point. But Broadway's closed. Movies aren't being shot, or they're not being released. And
they've certainly been cut back. There's certainly less work as opposed to more work right now.
So I think it's a good, all this information. I think it's a good time to reevaluate why you're going to college and what you're hoping to get out of it, and really look at the value.
Yep.
And by the same token, the flip side of that, which is probably a different discussion, is if you graduate college with one of these majors that's not known to be particularly helpful in getting employment after college, well, what value are you providing the world, or at least the marketplace? I think kids need to be thinking about that also. It's not just pursuing a passion. It's like, well, what am I going to do with it that's going to be valuable to someone else besides me, and therefore help me make a living, make my way in the world, and be compensated for the value that I provide. So it ties into a lot of stuff right here. So I see some questions coming in, bracing myself a little bit. Deborah agrees.
Okay, fair warning.
The Voice. Okay, Christina, my older son's college seems to have made a significant number of the spring courses online only, and parents are obviously upset and considering keeping the student home. While I understand that position, won't that ultimately hurt the school and thereby the aid they have to offer the students? It's too early to tell about aid, but I believe that that's the last place they're going to cut. I think that's the sacred cow, particularly merit aid, because they need to be able to have a war chest of merit scholarships to be able to offer
to entice
to entice the high income, mass affluent families that can't qualify for need-based aid to come. So I'm cautiously optimistic that there isn't going to be a huge reduction at all in merit aid or need-based aid, and I'm very rubbing my hands gleefully because I think there's going to be a lot of negotiating coming up in March and April because of that. Because colleges have to, they have to compete with each other too. All right, Melissa Goldstein, good morning. Sarah Yilma, thank you guys. Thanking you too. Okay. Marissa Schwartz, as someone who's taught college, there are reasons for tenure that I believe are important: academic freedom and censorship, which I experience. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I agree that there are reasons for tenure.
Yep.
But there's good professors who deserve tenure and fulfill the higher sort of level aspirations behind tenure, including immunity from
school philosophy,
administrative pressure,
right.
But it's a double-edged sword for sure. Okay, Ann Heller, any buzz around how the college is under financial pressures impacting the ED acceptances? Well, I wouldn't call it buzz, but back in 2008, the same thing happened when we had the recession, and colleges dipped more heavily into their early decision pools to admit kids. So that seems to be what's going to happen this year. That according to everything that I read and all my colleagues that I speak to. So this is a good year to go ED. I think next year probably will be also. There's also a huge uptick in applications. Yeah. So our daughter told us in a dismayed way yesterday that her top choice lower Ivy college had 9,000 applications compared to 6,000 last year, and I've heard that for another handful of schools too.
Recipe for a freak out.
Well, what I pointed out to her is that doesn't mean that there's 3,000 more qualified applicants. It just means that there's more more people nominating that particular school as an early decision school. I don't think the number of qualified applicants can go up mathematically, because there's only so many who are qualified.
And we all haven't gotten smarter. I mean, right?
Possibly the contrary. Yeah. Present company included. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me.
I wasn't taking it personally.
Whatever. You're so defensive all the time. It's annoying that we do this on the air. So let's just keep that behind the scenes.
I love you.
That's more like it. Very aggressive again. So I think this is a good year for ED. The problem with ED though is when you go early decision, it is, it's binding for the most part, and then you don't have any other leverage. So that is certainly a consideration if money is important. Applying early decision without asking for aid is a really good move because you're checking off two big boxes for the college. One is to help them with their budget, and two is that you're committed to going there, so they don't have to worry about the yield, which is the ratio of kids who are admitted versus who actually matriculate, and that's all tracked, monitored, bragged about, hashed out. So it's good, definitely a big year for early decision in my guess. Why more applications this year? I don't. It's school by school. It's a lot of the Ivies seem to have more applications this year. Not sure, honestly. Tulane is notorious. This is from Melissa Goldstein. Keeps pushing the switch to ED. They've done that in the last few years that I've been aware, where they try to flip kids from early action to early decision and early decision 2.
Tulane is definitely in a very active state of elevating themselves, and in that process, they need to be very, very mindful of that yield that Andy was just talking about.
They have a I guess he's director of admissions, dean of admissions, who is a big data guy, and he is behind. He's been in that position for a handful of years. I don't know exactly how many, but he noticed that Tulane got great results by doing exactly what Melissa just noted, by trying to get people to convert their applications from early action to early decision and ED2. Yeah. So what'll happen this year is after early decision 1 results come out around December 15th, and kids don't necessarily hear what they were hoping to hear, Tulane is going to make a big push to all the kids who applied their EA to get them to flip to early decision 2. So that hasn't happened yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Lori's question about why there may be more applications this year. Just some food for thought, perhaps, that many schools have made the testing optional. So that could sure be a good reason why students have felt, let's say, maybe more confident to apply to certain schools they otherwise would have found themselves statistically shut out of.
Yeah, that's a good point. The flip side is that at Ivy and near Ivy schools, 70% of kids have submitted scores. So I don't think being test optional there is going to help that as much as you might hope. So there's probably more kids taking flyers.
I would agree.
Yeah, but we'll see. It's a work in progress.
Great question.
Great question from The Voice.
Yeah.
Deborah Sperling, do merit aid folks talk to the financial aid folks before making an offer? So in
what order? Right.
Yeah. The short answer is ideally, no, it's two separate things, but in reality, it does matter, particularly in terms of whether you qualify for need-based aid or not. So in a hypothetical where a family qualifies for need-based aid and the child is eligible for merit aid, in our experience, those two offers are blended, meaning you don't get necessarily 100 cents on the dollar that you would have otherwise gotten had you received only need-based or only merit aid. So I don't know if they're talking to each other, but it's all reviewed, I think. Emily Sanders, it would be scary to see what our applicants look like in a couple of years after all this virtual high school craziness. I don't know. I'm not really scared about it, but I am definitely curious about it. But I think the thing to understand is that we're all in the same boat. So we and kids and parents all kind of tend to follow the same types of trends and advice. So I don't know if there's going to be much of a distinguishing factor. I think kids are still taking the SAT and ACT multiple times and doing crazy extracurriculars and all these types of things. So I don't really see a big change in that, because as long as they think there's going to be an edge for doing all that, a certain amount of kids and parents are going to be doing that. Yeah. On the other hand, what all of our kids need to be thinking about, and parents, is that when you fill out a college application or when you go for an internship or when you go for a job, one of the questions you're going to get is, what did you do during the pandemic? Yeah. And if your answer is, along the lines of, well, I just studied more, as opposed to, well, I volunteered in the local doctor's office, a local hospital, or I delivered food, to first responders, or things with initiative, then that's going to be not great.
Set you apart.
If you don't do that, it's going to be mediocre, and if you do that, it's going to set you apart. So the edge always goes to kids who set them apart, whether it's a pandemic or not. Mm-hmm. So I expect that to continue. There's 10%, 5% of kids who will do things like that. So there's no time for complacency. Yeah. In sum and substance. Yeah. If you have a 9th grader or a 10th grader or even 11th grader, this is really the time to take a look at everything you're doing extracurricularly. And if you're doing only things that are typical, you need to say, well, what can I do that's atypical? Right. The rest of the world is not taking a break. Yeah, exactly. I think we should take a break now. That's been about a half hour. It's great show. We love doing this. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and sharing. Please share this on, however you do that. And please like it. That always helps us get a little more Zuckerberg juice, as we call it here. Zuck juice, and helps us expand our reach. And we're going to do one more show, I think, before we wrap up for the year. Is that sure? You up for that? Give 2020 one last kick in the what? Whatever. On the internet? Yeah. Kick in the internet. Yeah. All right. So have a great week, everyone. Good place to end up. Thank you for joining us for College Talk Tuesday. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.